Wow. Okay, so we are uh, heading into Pesach in an unprecedented way. Mamash, as you all know, I'm very close with Rav Asher Weiss, and he's been around for a while, and he was connected with Rabbanim and people who went through the Holocaust. And, since then, there's nothing that's affected the world in such a way. I'm not drawing any comparisons, obviously, but just in terms of the global impact and something that affects every single person in Klal Yisrael, and that it's requiring a whole new area of halacha of questions and answers. And this is something really unprecedented, as well as the confusion around it, and nobody really knowing what the future is going to bring. And it's just something very new for everybody. And something that we're learning ourselves how to go through and trying to guide our families through. And we've got 20 students and 4 staff still in Tomer Devora who are sticking it out over here. And it is just unprecedented times. And now we're already on Rosh Chodesh. It's already Nissan, and it's already time to really, get into Pesach. And it's funny, just 2 days ago, I was basically what happened is, like, I've been very careful about this from as soon as we were told to be careful about it, and I started being very careful with the school and myself and my family. And especially because I have a mother-in-law who lives with us who's not young. And although I'll share something. A Chashuv person said to me recently that you don't stop having fun when you get old. He said you get old when you stop having fun. That's what they said. Something. So um, I've been taking it very seriously, and as a result, and I've been asking Rav Weiss a lot of questions, and he's also been taking it very seriously. So as a result, I've been driving the Rav a lot more than usual, because he trusts my car, that it's a clean, a corona-free car. Mitzvah Hashem. So I've had the opportunity to speak to him a number of times, throughout all of this. And um, I lost my train of thought. I lost my train of thought of what I was. Oh, so I asked him a Pesach question. That's what I asked him a question. I have to turn off my sounder. I asked a question about Pesach, and he, like, it was just like a couple of days ago, and he said Pesach. We're not up to Pesach questions yet. So it's really something that's something brand new. But I want to not talk about halachos of Pesach. There's a lot. That I have already online, and a lot of questions and answers that are available. But I really want to speak more about some of the inyanim and the hashkafos and the perspective on Pesach. And it's impossible not to be framing things in the perspective of what's going on right now in the world. And so I'm just going to kind of share with you some of my thoughts and a sort of an approach to Pesach, and what's going on over here. And I want to start with one question, and then we're going to make a very big diversion. And the question is a very famous, common question. But why is the Yontif of Pesach named Pesach? Right? Okay, so the simple answer, after the Karban Pesach. Okay, why is the Karban Pesach called the Karban Pesach? Right? What's Pesach? Right? So we say this in the Haggadah, Al Shem, that Hashem was Poseach. Hashem jumped over the houses of the Jews during Makas Bechoros. So first of all, I want to point out, this is also a side point. I'm good at that, you guys know that. So yeah, this the first tzivui of a quarantine, as far as I know, the first tzivui of a quarantine happened today on Rosh Chodesh Nissan. Right? It's on Rosh Chodesh Nissan is when Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu, first of all, Chodesh Hazelachem, which we're going to talk about soon, right? But on Rosh Chodesh Nissan is when Hashem told Moshe all the halachos of Pesach, all the halachos of the Karban Pesach, and what to do, and Etzem Lo Sishru, a lot of things we're going to still get to tonight. right? And then that same day, it says that, and he told him about Bacchus Bachoros. He told him what's going to happen that same day. This is if you have a chumash around, Perik Yud Beis, Pasuk Chaf Aleph. Vayikra Moshe l'chol ziknei Yisrael v'yomer aleim. Yeah, go get the tzon, go get the carbon pesach, get the thing and dip the blood in the dam of the carbon pesach. Yeah, Asher V'saf. Vatem lo seitzu ish pesach beso ad boker. Don't leave your house until the morning. Mamash Pasuk says that, and this is not just like a cute thing that it's a connection, but this is Mamish one of the sources. There's this Gemara that Revice. I don't know if you all saw I posted a link to a YouTube shir Erev Shabbos, not a shir, just like a little clip of Revice giving people chizuk. If you didn't see it yet, you really should. Just very brief and giving people chizuk about, well, then now it's staying home completely, but then it was, okay. Anyway, so he's quoted many times Revice, this Gemara that, the Gemara says explicitly, dever be'ir kanes raglacha. If there's a dever, that which this is, that dever is a form of a magefa. Magefa just means like a plague. A plague is something that just spreads through a population, and dever is a form of a plague. For all we know, I was speaking about this with my kids. Talking about the makos. Dever, was likely a virus. You know what I mean? I don't know. We didn't know what those were back then, right? But the way that it's described in Chazal and everything, and it's a type of a plague that spread through the people and the animals. Yeah. So, or some sort of a bacteria or something like that, right? But but here the Torah. So what's the source? One of the sources of the Gemara says, "Shenemer v'atem lo seitzu ish pesach beso ad boker," right? Because the night of Yetzias Mitzrayim, that was like a night of a magefa. That was a night that it was a sakana to be out on the street. It was misukan for a person to leave and do anything. Yeah. So therefore, this pasuk ish lo seitzu ish pesach beso ad boker. That's mamish one of the psukim that Chazal bring to tell us how to conduct ourselves during the situation that we're in. I just thought it was interesting that this was on Rosh Chodesh Nissan, that this tzivui was given, and all of this took place, during this kufa, like mamash, this time, and we all know the idea of Nissan nigalu, Nissan isidim legoyel. I'm not one of these people that says Mashiach is coming in around the corner. Halavai should come before this year is over, and but I don't know what's something that's leading to Mashiach or something that's going to pass. And in 2 years from now, we'll all remember, oh boy, remember those Corona days. Nobody knows anything. We all daven and hope, and, but it is Nissan, and we're going into this time period. And what we're going to be speaking about tonight is Dafka, this Inyan, that, these time periods, we associate so much with the stories. We associate so much with, the history of Yetzias Mitzrayim and the matzahs, and of course that's all emes. Of course that's all true. I want to though tonight look a little bit, or today, deeper into this whole the cycle, the system of the year and the month of Nisan and what Pesach represents and what are we supposed to take out of it. That's really kind of what I want to address. So what I started with though was that question, which we're going to get back to, which is, well, why is it called Pesach? Of all the things to talk about, of all the aspects of the night and the Chag, call it, Chag HaMakos, Chag Ha, I could think of all other things. Well, we do call it Chag HaMatzos, we do, but why, Chag HaGeula, why Pesach, and why again is the carbon Pesach named after this concept of Poseach? And there's many answers to this. I'm just going to go and explain one. Okay, but now we're going to digress and get back to this. Now, if you are at home, well, I guess which most of you are, if you have access to a Sidur Nusach Sfard, not Edut Mizrach and not Ashkenaz, but Nusach Sfard, so it may help you to have it with you for this next piece. And this is something actually I spoke about last year. I've only spoken about this once in school, and I think it was maybe last year. So those of you last year, you'll remember maybe some of this a little bit. But I want to explain to you a little bit about the cycle of the year. We have, as we all know, a year of 12 months and sometimes 13. And we have all of these chagim and events and things that we cycle through the year. And, we know that the year starts out with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and that has one, feeling to it. And then we move into Sukkot, and that has another feeling to it. And then we've got the winter, Hanukkah, Purim, and then Pesach, and then Shavuos, right? There's this whole, rhythm that we have to the year. And that's not stam, right? There is a cycle. There's a cycle in Shemayim. There's a cycle of shefa, of the way that the shefa comes down from Shemayim, the way that Hashem is mashpia here in the world, the way that things happen over here. There's a system to all of that, and that system works in a cycle. And we understand, Chazal through various midrashim, and through the Torah Sheba'al Peh, we understand Hashem has given us the ability to understand this cycle and understand how it fits into what goes on with us. Now, this cycle is represented in a very interesting way. If you go onto the Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, if any of you have a Nusach Sfard Siddur in front of you, so look on I don't have one. I don't think in my house. I don't think we have one at all. But if you go, well, probably so. If you go to Musaf on Rosh Chodesh, and you go to where you make the bracha, Mekadesh Yisrael v'Roshei Chodashim. It's either on that page or the facing page, or in some Sidurim, it's like at the end of Shmona Esrei, right? But if you look, you'll see this little chart of all the different months and all different jumbles of letters. Does anybody, just raise your hand if anybody sees what I'm talking about? I'm just going to flip through the pages here. Does anybody see what I'm talking about? Anybody? I don't see any hands, no hands. Okay. Anyways, I'm hoping somebody will know.
Can you repeat where exactly it is again?
It's in Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. If you have a Nusach Sfard, again, not Ashkenaz and not Edut Mizrach, but if you look at a Nusach Sfard Siddur, right? Any Nusach Sfard, not any, most of them, in Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, like, after Hallel, and, after Shabbos and Mincha and Ma'ariv of Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos, then there's usually like Hallel, and then Musaf of Rosh Chodesh. Is anybody?
I'm Ashkenazi, so I do not have one of those.
Okay, so in Musaf of Rosh Chodesh, there's usually a chart right where it has the section about Mekadesh Yisrael v'Roshei Chodashim, right? On the Shem Hashem, the Yud Kei Vav Kei of that bracha, right? There's in many Sidurim, there is a chart, and it'll show you like what kavana you're supposed to have for that Shem Hashem, and next to each month is a different jumble of 4 letters, and sometimes it's 2 sets of 4. No, anybody see this? Anybody? I'm flipping through all the pages here. No, okay, nobody's looking. I don't know. People are looking and not finding it. Okay, it's in. Is that it? Somebody's. It says iPhone. I don't know who you are, but somebody found it. I think that's it. I can't. It's hard for me to see from here, but it's basically a chart of all the months of the year and a different jumble of letters. I looked it up online. I found it online. Okay, if you have it, it'll be helpful for you. Oh, you know what? Maybe this is it. 1 second. Oh, maybe it's in here. Hold on 1 second. Actually, not that this will help you, unless you take a screenshot or something. 1 second.
Here, I also found it.
Some people are finding it now. What? I don't know who's talking. I'm on my phone with the Zoom, so it's very. I don't know. No, I know. I know, but almost all of you are like, oh, there. Yeah, look, that looks like it. Here it is, right here. On this page. Yeah. 1 second. I'm gonna hold it up. I can't see my. I have to go to my. Here we go. Okay. Can anybody see what I'm holding up here? Or is it backwards or something?
Yeah, it looks normal.
Okay, so if you want to take a screenshot or whatever.
It's not backwards.
Okay. So this is what I'm talking about. This is the section I'm going to show to my other camera also. I don't know if they could see this or not. Right, but this is what I'm talking about. I don't know. Okay, so what this is a chart of every month of the year, all 12 months of the year, and what each month has, and it's called a tziruf. Okay, a tziruf means a combination of letters, right, of the Shem Hashem, of Yud Kei Vav Kei, Yud and Kei, that's how we say it, Yud and Hey, and Vav and Hey. We try not to say that because that's like spelling out the Shem Hashem. So each month has its own tziruf, has its own combination of letters, and this combination is significant because the letters have a different significance, each one, okay? Among these 4 letters that we have, okay, Yud, and then maybe I'll write this on a piece of paper. Maybe it'll be easier for people to see. No, okay, I'd rather not do it. It's a shame. But among these 4 letters, so you've got 2 Hay's, right? And then a yud and a vav. Okay, so in conceptually, the way that we see things, right? We know that there are like these two primordial forces, the forces of chesed and the forces of din, right? Chesed and gvura, the force of giving versus the force of receiving and giving boundaries to things, right? These are like the two most prime forces that the Torah Ravali explains this. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'sa'aretz doesn't just mean shamayim va'aretz, but it means these two forces that the entire universe is structured on. This the forces of Chesed and Din, of Mashpia and Makabel. These two forces. So the Yud and the Vav of the Shem Hashem, those are considered to be the letters of Chesed. Those are considered to be the letters of giving, of mashpia, of the chesed, and the Hay's, the letter Hay, is the letter of din and gvura, right? The olam hazeh is built like the letter Hay. It says in Sefer Torah Devorah that we learned, and all but the letter Hay has a connotation of din and gvura. Okay, so there's tons to talk about this whole discussion, right? But the idea that among these four letters, Yud and Vav are the letters of Chesed, and the two Hay's are the letters of Din. Okay, so now the Shem Hashem, the way it's supposed to be, right? The Shem Hashem in its purest form, so to speak, right? In its best form is when it's running straight, where you have the Yud, which is the Chesed, and the Hey is subservient to the Yud, right? The Yud is like first, and the Hey is the second, and then the Vav and the Hey is subservient to the Vav, right? So in other words, you have both aspects of Gvura and Din are each subject to the Chesed, right? And the Shem of Hashem, Yud K Vav K, is shining straight. Okay, does everybody understand what I'm saying here? Kind of conceptually speaking, it's like an abstract idea what we're talking about over here.
What do you mean by straight? What do you mean?
Like when the letters go in the appropriate order, Yud and then Hey and then Vav and then Hey. So you have the first set of Yud and Hey is like it's in the good order because we want the Chesed to be before the Din. We need both, right? We don't just want Chesed and we certainly don't want just Din, right? But we want the Din to be there subject to the Chesed, subservient, secondary to the Chesed, right? So when you've got Yud and Hey, and then Vav and Hey, so now we're all everything's in the best balance it could be in, right? Next best would be Vav Hey and then Yud Hey, because you've still got the Chesed winning in both situations. However, something is a little bit out of place, right? That the lower levels are first, etc. Right? But that's the basic idea. Okay, so yeah, so far you guys with me? This is just an interesting, not just interesting. I'm saying I think it's also interesting, but this is a fundamental idea to really understanding how the world is, the year is structured, time, right? So okay, now in addition, yeah, good, I'm with you, yeah.
It's a daya. Is this like similar to what we learned in Tomer Devorah, like the Sefer Tomer Devorah? We're going through.
There are parts of Sefer Tomer Devorah that reference ideas that we're talking about here, but it's not exactly the same concept. But there are concepts that are certainly related to this. Oh yeah, I could be in that. I think it could be your. Yes. In your year, I think I did this. I went into this more. I haven't any other time, but that year I did a little bit more of this in that class. But correct, that's the same ideas that we're talking about. Exactly the same thing. Okay, so now this is the last intro, and then we're gonna. Okay, now the last thing is like this. Every one of these 12, and because there's 4 letters, so you can arrange it in 12 different ways, right? Because the Hay's are the same. So anyway, so you have 12 different structures, right? Yud K Vav K, and then Yud K K Vav, Yud Vav K K, K Vav K Yud, K Vav Yud K, right? There's 12 different ways, one for each month. Okay, again, you can look this up online or look at any Nusach Sfard. Now, each one of these also has a pasuk. Okay, there's a pasuk that is merames to each one of these tzirufim. Okay, and the pasuk for Yud K Vav K in the straight order. Okay, the pasuk is a pasuk most of us might know if we've said Tehillim and it comes up in davening a lot of times. Yismechu hashamayim v'sagel haaretz Yiram Hayam Umalo'o. Okay, if you want to write this down, if you don't have anything else in front of you, you might want to just write this down if you care to pay attention to what we're talking about here in the next piece. But Yismechu Hashemayim v'Sogel Haaretz Yiram Hayom Umalo'o. Okay, so that pasuk, if you pay attention to the first four letters, right, it's Yud K Vav K. Yismechu Hashemayim v'Sogel Haaretz. Okay, so now anybody who's got a sitter in front of you, you probably noticed by now that the month of Nissan is exactly this. This is Nissan, Yud K Vav K, and the pasuk for the month of Nissan is Yismechu Hashemayim v'Sagel Haaretz. Right? Nissan is the month of Chesed, the month of Hashem being Meir the way it's supposed to, okay, which is what we're going to, what we're going to talk about. Now, the rest of the months, right, each month, as we go through the year, you'll see, like, the more difficult months, Tammuz and Av, right? So Tammuz and Av are both months where the hay comes first. Right, those are months where it's like more difficult for us. Right, the Tammuz is the worst of all of them. It's Shem Hashem backwards, Hey Vav, and then Hey Yud. It's the worst of the worst. The worst situation. And right, I think I've said this before in Shurim that Tammuz is really worse than Av. In Av, we already start the Tikkun of the Churban Habayis began the Tikkun, and Tu B'Av comes in Av, right? But Tammuz is like spiritually speaking, Tammuz and Teves are the two worst months. I think I said this in school one year. It was Teves time that we spoke about it, right? But Tammuz is Kevav Keyud, and it's just interesting also that the pasuk is Ze Eineno Shoveli. It's the last letters of those four words that Haman says, right? Haman says when he leaves the house of Achashverosh, I've been treated so wonderful, but Kol Ze Eineno Shoveli, it's not worth it for me. Nothing feels worth it if Mordechai doesn't bow down, and that's that's the feeling of Tammuz that when there's tsaros, nothing feels worth it. Eineno Shoveli, and the Shem Hashem is backwards, and it's the last letters of the words. That's also a sign of din and gevura. Okay. Anyway, as we go through the year, you'll see how the year is structured, and this structure is reflected by these tzirufim of Shem Hashem. And I'll just throw this in as the last point about this before we move on. But we know that there are four kufos in the year, right? There are four seasons that are set off throughout the year. There's Nisan, Tammuz, Tishrei, and Teves, right? Those are the four, like, Tkufos, right? That's when you have Tkufas. Nisan is the vernal equinox, right? That's when the spring begins, right? When you have the day where the day and night are the same, the vernal, that's spring, that's always going to be in Nisan, right? In fact, that's the halacha, right? That Pesach has to be after that equinox. Pesach has to be in Chodesh Aviv, in the springtime, and that's why we'll add an extra Adar sometimes if the calendar lags too much, right? We'll push Nisan forward to be in the springtime. That's the first tkufa. The next tkufa is Tammuz, right? And Tammuz we just saw is Kevav Keyud. That's Shem Hashem backwards, and Tammuz is very, very difficult. Tishrei, right? Tishrei is Vav K Yud K, right? So it's a mixture. On the one hand, it's good. On the one hand, we're closer to the Chesed. We're closer to the to Hashem. That's what Tishrei is all about. But on the other hand, it's mixed up, right? And whatever, we'll talk about that more for Rosh Hashanah time. It's not for now, right? And then Teves is the other difficult month, right? Asara b'Teves and other tzaros, right? We know in Teves. So Teves is also K Yud K Vav, and that's also the backwards with the din, with the gevura coming first, and the letters of the chesed coming second. Okay, so this is how the year is structured, and it's for this reason that the different months have different things, different characteristics, different events that have happened in them, different ways that we commemorate all of these things. So again, of course, we understand that the mitzvos of Pesach and all of these things are because of the story of Yetzias Mitzrayim and the matzos and all, because they had to rush. At the same time, there's a very interesting the opposite way of looking at it. This is Rav Chaim Brisker, the Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, the Brisker Rav, who said this in his Agada. And he said, when the Chacham asks, Ma havoda hazos lachem, when the Chacham asks this question, what's all of this avoda? So no, the Chacham say in Maftir. Oh no, yeah. Say Bavur zeh asa Hashem li b'teisim mitzrayim. I think it's what it is. Bavur zeh asa Hashem li b'teisim mitzrayim. Yeah, and Rashi on that pasuk of Bavur zeh, right? Rashi says Pesach matzah maror, right? So what does that mean? Ba'avur zeh, in order to have Pesach matzah and maror, Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. What do you mean? It's the other way around, right? We were taken out of Mitzrayim, so now we have Pesach to commemorate the Poseach, and we have the matzah to remember the lechem oni, and that we rushed, and we have the maror, right? What do you mean? So no, the Chaim said the opposite, right? All the mitzvos and everything that happens throughout the year, these are tikkunim that we have to do regardless. This is why the avos were able to keep Pesach. This is why they were Avram Avinu and they were keeping Pesach. They weren't eating chametz already, even though it was hundreds of years before Mitzrayim, right? Because the tikkunim that happen during these times of the year, these are tikkunim that happen anyway. And a person who knows how to, well, we can't do this anymore. It would be impossible. A person would be an apikoros if they tried to do this. But before the Torah, that's how they kept the Torah. They understood, what was supposed to be happening during the times of the year that they were tuned into, and then throughout our history, Hashem has overlaid, right? This cycle has been going since the beginning, right? This cycle, since the Chet of Adam Arishon, this cycle has happened, right? But overlaying onto this, Hashem will bring about things to happen in the appropriate times and in the appropriate ways, and then they will mesh and correspond perfectly, right? But the real thing, what's happening behind the scenes, right, is what the different types of hashpaos, the different types of tkufos of the year that we go through. Okay, so now with that in mind, we talk about Rosh Chodesh Nissan, right? Chodesh Hazelachem, Rosh Chodeshim, right? This is, for all intents and purposes, it's not Rosh Hashanah, right? Rosh Hashanah is Aleph Tishrei, but Rosh Chodeshim, the first of the cycle of the months of the year, right? So that's Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. This is like a very, very significant big day. And if you look in the Siddur, right, the cycle starts with Nisan. The cycle starts with the first Tziruf of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, in Chodesh Nisan, right? Chodesh Nisan starts the whole cycle of the year going, right? The way that we view the cycle of the year, it doesn't really start on Tishrei. It kind of ends on Tishrei, all the Chagim, right? The Chagim start on Nisan. They go through Shavuos, right? Pesach, Shavuos, and then we get to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Every single time in the Torah that it discusses the Chagim, it discusses them in that order. It never starts with Rosh Hashanah and then go to Yom Kippur and then to, never. It always starts by Nisan and goes through the cycle of the year, because our cycle of months, and the Chagim are built into the months. Our cycle of months starts now with the Chodesh Hazelachem. And the idea is that this Chodesh, the starting Chodesh, the Chodesh of Nisan, where the Chesed is just full on, and the Shem Hashem, this is represented again by the Shem Hashem being spelled in its straightforward way, in its clear way, right? So this is the time that it had to be that Yesias Mitzrayim would happen. Why? Because what's Chesed, and what's the difference between Pesach and this time of year and Tishrei, and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, where we're also appealing to Hashem's Chesed and Hashem's Rachamim. So it's completely different. Tishrei is a time actually of Gvura. Tishrei is a time of Din, right? And that's why we're judged, right? We're judged on Tishrei. Judging is not free. Judging is not a facet of Chesed. Judging is a facet of Din, right? The Chesed doesn't have rules. Chesed is just giving and giving in and being mevater, right? Like the first whole chapter of Sefer Torah Devorah. It's all different midos of Hashem, all different ways that He's mevater and gives in and just keeps giving and is all different things. That's Chesed, right? Din and Gvura. That's already where judgment comes, and we daven for Mishpat, we daven for Rachamim, which is a mixture of Chesed and Din, right? But Tishrei is all about Gvura and Din. It's all about judgment. It's all about appealing for tshuva. Again, it's a happy time. The Gvura and Din doesn't mean sad. It's sad, like, again, we said, like, Tammuz and Teves, right? But it's all a time of Din, as opposed to Nissan, right? In Nissan, what is chesed? Chesed is when a person doesn't deserve it. If a person deserves something, that's not chesed. When a person deserves something, that's din. You owe it to them. You have to give it to them, right? Chesed is when you give a person something. I'll tell you something unbelievable. I just heard this year from Rav Moshe Samsonovich, who's the very big Talmid Chacham who lives nearby over here, and he quoted from a Vilna Gaon, and I looked it up. It was so interesting. He said, when a person does a chesed for you, right, you have to do more for them than they did for you. You have to. Forget about ribis. We're not talking about paying back physical things that ribis applies to, right? But he says, why? Because if you just do back for them what they did to you, that's just being a mensch. That's just like, you have to do that. You owe a debt of a karasatov if somebody did something to you. But what you haven't paid back yet is their willingness to do it for you, right? When you're doing it back for them, you're already doing it as a payback, right? So you have to do more than they did for you, because you also have to do for them the aspect that they did for you, which was doing it freely and out of their own free will. So says the Vilna Gaon, therefore this is based on psukim in Mishlei. And I looked it up because I was so taken by this, right? But that's what he says, that you always have to give more when it comes to Akar Satov, right? So right, but the chesed is giving when you don't deserve it. Chesed is giving just when it's a freebie. Now, and that's exactly what happened in Mitzrayim. That's exactly what happened by Yetzias Mitzrayim, right? We know Chazal tell us that they were on the Memtes Shari Tuma, right? That they were on the deepest of the deep levels of the Tuma, and even by Yetzias Mitzrayim, right? Hashem, the Malachi Asharis came to Hashem and said, "Halalu of the Avodah Zarah, halalu of the Avodah Zarah." Like, okay, I know there's many different midrashim, and this is not like all the children's books that show them all, big tzaddikim and all of these things. But right, there's a medrash that says this. Maybe groups of Klal Yisrael that were like this, right? But the idea is that Klal Yisrael did not deserve Yetzias Mitzrayim at all. At all. It was a pure, total chesed from Hashem in the month of Nissan, the month of explosion of chesed, right? There was no deserving of this geula at all. It was straight Hashem. He promised it to the avos, right? But these people had absolutely no. It was not coming from their merit. There was nothing that they had done to earn their right to this geula. It was a straight up chesed from Hashem. Okay, now when a person is given a chesed that they're not prepared for, when a person is given something that is like too much for them, so we know, especially if you're a Tomer Devorah graduate, right, that's not a good thing. That's bad, right? It's bad when a person gets too much that they can't handle. It's right. We have to grow slowly. We have to grow step by step, right? This is like the antithesis of the Tomer Devorah Hashkafa, right? A person is not supposed to jump. We don't jump. We have to grow, bit by bit and piece by piece, right? Well, so that was mamish the nace of Yetzias Mitzrayim, the nace of Pesach, and we're going to see how we can tap into that, right? But the nace of Pesach was that Hashem protected them, right? And they had to do something for this. We'll see in a second, right? There are certain mitzvahs that they had to do in order to be involved in their own protection. Again, they couldn't earn the geula. That they couldn't do, right? But now that they were getting this tremendous, see what happens. I'll tell you in a spiritual way. We're familiar with this in the way of like, a Baal Tshuva or a person who's coming, more from and flipping out, and they jump too fast, too far, and and it's too much for them, and they break and they fall. So that's for sure true, and that's the way it happens. And there's lots to learn about why not to do that, etc. Right? But there's also like a spiritual side to this, right? That there are times in a person's life that they get a lot of shefa. They get a lot. Hashem gives them the opportunity. Hashem gives them. Oh no! You with me? Oh no. Okay, yeah. Hashem gives them an opportunity to get a lot. Hashem gives them, a huge amount, right? But if they're not ready for it yet, so what happens is as follows, right? Something's got to happen with that extra shefa. Something's got to happen with that extra ore. And if this person is not taking it in properly, so then the chitzonim grab it. So then the forces of negativity, they feed off of that. They feed off of that extra energy, that extra shefa that a person is not able to handle, right? So the forces of negativity move in to to take from it, and that's what brings a person down. Then a person now is, in their state of taking, ends up bringing negativity into their life, and a person, that's why we have to be very careful, how we grow and how we take on things, right? But under normal circumstances, if a person gets too much too quickly and they can't handle it, so they fall, right? They fall, and because all of the forces of negativity come in and they attach themselves to the person. So that's what all of these mitzvos are. What Hashem tells us, right, on this night, that you have to do all of these mitzvos. And I'm just going to go through very, very briefly. I'm saying what could give a shir about every one of these mitzvos, right? But Hashem told them to take the Karban Pesach, right? Which, what is that? That represents the Avodah Zarah of Mitzrayim, right? We know this idea, the Avodah Zarah, they worshipped the Tleh, and part of the Nisayon of the Jews was to take it on the 10th of the month in front of everybody. That's why Shabbos HaGadol is called Shabbos HaGadol, because it was a miracle that all the Jews took their the Avodah Zarah from the Goyim. And not only that, it's interesting, that we know there's a mitzvah of etzem lo sishberubo. Etzem, you're not allowed to break any of the bones of the Korban Pesach. You're not even allowed to scrape them, right? The halacha is, if you're eating Korban Pesach and you're eating with a knife and a fork, you have to be very, very careful. It's aser mamish to scrape the bone, you know what I mean? Like, to go into, that's mamish lav in the Torah, etzem lo sishberubo. You got to eat the Korban Pesach in a very, very careful manner. So we all probably are familiar with a very famous Sefer HaChinuch. You should see it if you haven't seen it yet. I'm sure you all have time. You can look it up online. If you don't have the Sefer at home, the Sefer HaChinuch, it's either Mitzvah Tes Vav or Tes Zayin, Yud Zayin, somewhere around there. You'll take a look. If it's the wrong one, I'm sure you'll see other good mitzvahs also. Tes Vav, Tes Zayin, right around there. It's the mitzvah of Etzem Lo Sishberubo, the mitzvah of not breaking a bone on the Korban Pesach. And it's a beautiful, beautiful piece over there about why we have this mitzvah. The truth is, I'll tell you, because it's pertinent a little bit to us today, right? He says, because we're all B'nai Malachim, we're all the sons of Hashem, and on Leil Pesach, it's, we treat ourselves like kings and queens, and, kings and queens don't break bones and suck on the marrow and, get every last bit. They eat in a very, very dignified, proper, and appropriate manner. And he says there's a famous thing over there, that the chitzonius is more the pnimius, right? The way that we act on the outside affects us on the inside, and therefore, if if we want to be dignified, we have to eat in a dignified way. And if we eat in an undignified way, even if we're trying to be dignified, it's going to affect us. And that's why he says we have this, the losaseh of etzem losishbruvos. I'll tell you, I was just thinking about it today. They were also in quarantine. Like I said, it was just them and their families. The night of Korban Pesach, it was just them, and that they had to be together only in small groups of people, only enough people that would be able to eat that one set. That's the halacha, right? It had to be eaten in a chabura, and you weren't allowed to have more or less. You had to have a group of people that was just enough to eat the Korban Pesach, or two Korban Pesachs, and then that group of people. But it was mamish, they weren't allowed to leave their houses. They were all together. Yeah, so who cares what I'm wearing? Who cares if I'm in my pajamas all day? Who cares if I, break the bones? It's just me and the family. Like, no, the Torah. I don't think that's really the Musar. I don't think it's because they were together. I'm just saying it's just an interesting thing. But the plug for getting dressed every day and not wearing pajamas when you're in quarantine. So, but the idea was taking this avodah zara taking this avodah zara that the Mitzrim worshipped, and shechting it, proving their loyalty, so to speak, to Hashem, showing Hashem that that they're rejecting what the option of sticking with the Mitzri and the Egyptian way of being. They had to eat chametz, eat no chametz, only eat matzah. And we know, in many context, the whole concept of matzah, right, is getting rid of the Yetzer Hara, getting rid of the chametz should be isa, the thing that makes us sin, the thing that makes us, feel like we're haughty, like we're worth something more. The whole idea of chametz is the negativity and the forces of negativity. That's also what Klal Yisrael had to do. That to get rid of all of the chametz from their house, and they had to stay inside. They had to stay inside their house, right? All of these protective measures so as to not be killed by the magefa, right? However, like I said before, through none of these things did they earn their geula. right? Through none of these aspects of their avoda, all they did was keep themselves alive, right? If they kept these mitzvos, it's very clear, like Hashem, like he says, do all of these things. L'kachtam agudas ezuv u'tfaldu b'dam asher b'saf v'yigatim al mashkof al shem mezuzos min adaf asher b'saf v'atem lo seitzu ish b'pesach bezu ad boker. Right? V'avra Hashem lingof es Mitzrayim, and you're going to be fine. Yeah, v'lo yitin amashkos level. All you have to do ushmartem es hadavar hazeh. Just do these mitzvahs. Just do what I'm telling you to do, and you're going to be saved from the maka. But as for the geula, as for the removal from Mitzrayim, that's straight up chesed. That's straight chesed that all you can do is, protect yourself, that you're not going to be affected by the negativity that's going to try to invade you. That's all you can do, is to stay away from chametz and stay in the house and shech the carbon pesach, right? But you're not expected to be able to earn this geula, right? This geula is coming as a freebie, coming out straight from Chesed, the 15th day of the month, when the moon is full. That's the ha'ara of the the shefa, so to speak, is represented by the moon. That's why the Sukkot also was on the 15th of the month. It's also the same idea of the full Chesed coming down, right? But all of this is to give us that opportunity to tap into this chesed, to tap into this. I'm saying us, meaning Klal Yisrael all the time. Okay, so now what does this mean for us, and what does this still have to do with the name of Pesach, right? So now we understand, Pesach is not just the idea of Poseach is like jumping, but Poseach also means to jump, to skip, right? It comes up in Tanakh, it comes up in Mishnah. The Piseach, it means to jump, right? And that's the whole idea of Pesach, right? On Pesach, we have this opportunity to jump levels, right? We have this opportunity. Hashem, comes with this tremendous, dose of chesed coming in from Nissan, and we have this opportunity again, like in a spiritual way, we have an opportunity to jump, right? To go to a place that we don't normally have and be protected, from that regular fall, as long as we're keeping the halachos, as long as we're, staying inside, eating the matzah, doing what we're, doing what we're supposed to do, and guarding ourselves from the forces of negativity, right? But we, sitting back and essentially doing nothing, right? That's what the Chag of Pesach is about. That's what the Aliyah of Pesach is about. That we get to, jump to this level, right? Then what happens the very next day is we fall. The very next day is we fall, and now we've got 7 weeks to build ourselves back until Matan Torah, right? And that's really the cycle of this whole time of the year, right? Hashem gives us a freebie, right? He gives it to us. He gives it to us. And Leil Seder, every person can tap into this. And I'm trying to record videos maybe to explain this at a little bit of a deeper level. If I finish them in time and I'll post them, you'll see, hopefully. But every person has the ability to tap into this on Leil Seder, and a person has a tremendous sort of chesed from Hashem, a tremendous dose of chesed, and a person has the ability to tap into that again. What that means, and we don't feel that this is happening, and we don't know that this is happening, and we don't experience it. But the same thing that we don't feel like we're being judged on Yom Kippur, and we don't feel like we've done tshuva, or at least I don't necessarily. Sometimes psychologically, but not spiritually, or that it's the same thing over here. Hashem allows us access to very, very spiritual high levels, that in terms of davening, in terms of the power of the mitzvos that we do, and the power of the keeping of the mitzvos that we do, right? That's all something that we're given as like a freebie. And when on Pesach night, we all have like the power of a Gadol B'Yisrael. We all have like the spiritual power of a person who doesn't deserve it for that night. We're just given this tremendous dose, and then we have the ability to work ourselves back up to that place, through the work of Sfiras HaOmer, right? Which is, let's say, that's a separate idea, right? But the bottom line is, what I want to, focus on is that the idea of Pesach is not, it's not an idea of us, doing something in order to reach a certain level, right? We're used to growing in an active way, right? We're used to growing in taking something on and building on myself, and then taking something else on, and then growing, and then experimenting, and then no, it didn't work, and falling back, and then trying something else and trying something else. And Pesach is not about that. Pesach is about a person having the ability. Nissan, Pesach is about a person having the ability to allow Hashem to elevate them, right? Not through their own hishtadlus, not because I'm trying to be so good and I'm trying to grow and I'm trying to do everything, right? But I'm going to sit back. I'm going to keep the mitzvos. I'm going to keep to doing exactly what I need to do, right? But I'm going to give it up to Hashem, and I'm going to let Hashem, lift me up and pick me up. That's the koach of Pesach, and I think, just as far as what we're confined to this year, the ability for a person to grow or to gain in the regular ways that we are used to, right, are not really with us now. It's not the same. We can't do the same types of chesed that we normally do. We can't do the same types of learning that we normally do. We can't. Everything is changed for us. And the point is, I think what I'm trying to uh, fuel in myself, and is that in Nissan, that's not what we're about. In Nissan, we're about the sur meirah. We're about, right. We're starting now to clean for Pesach and make sure that there's no chametz in our houses and no chametz in our souls. Right. We have to try to shed ourselves of negativity. That's something that we could do in quarantine. That's something that a person can do in solitary confinement. In any condition, a person has the ability to find negative aspects of themselves and work on lessening them, right? And as opposed to finding places to be growing and looking to achieve levels, like I've normally done until now. By time now is like a time for more like sheva al taseh, that through my not doing things, through my focusing on myself, and not by actively engaging in the growth process, right? That's how a person taps into Nissan and taps into the right that Poseach Alabatim, that he took those houses where the people were hunkering down, right, and elevated them all the way up, that they had no that no deserve, no schus for it, no merit for it, and they didn't deserve it on any level, and Hashem brought them up to that level. And I think that's we have like no choice but to tap into that now. We have like no choice but to tap into an ability to connect with Hashem. You know what I mean? In a way where we're saying, okay, Hashem, this is up to you. I'm leaving it up to you to pull me up from here, because I can't do anything from my four walls over here, other than try to control myself, control my midos, be good. Not, what I mean? That's the best that I can do. So these are my Nissan thoughts. To tap into this chesed, tap into this tremendous dose of chesed. And again, the way that we tap into it is not by earning it, it's by not messing it up. By allowing the negativity to tap into it. That's how we sum up everything I just said. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay, great to see you, ladies.
It was really interesting. Thank you.
Okay, have a great night.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye, great day. Chodesh Tov.